Hey, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Creator Toolbox. This is the show all about the nuts and bolts behind any creator business. I'm Colin Gray from thepodcasthost.com, joined by Jacob. As always, how are you getting on, Jacob?
Really good, really good. Excited about this guest this week.
Indeed, indeed. So,
One of my
yes.
favorite companies at the moment.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that.
So, yeah, I'd love to introduce Mathilde Leo from Circle. How are you, Mathilde?
I'm really well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. Excellent. No, it's great to have you on. Yes, we're going to dig into a bit more of the stuff you do around Circle. Like Jacob says, we use Circle a lot, actually. So it's great to have you on here. But we'll dig into that during our Creator of the Week segment. So we'll come back to that, all the ways that we've been using Circle and some of your stuff around it as well, I'm sure. But let's jump straight into the tools. Let's get into it at the start. Do you want to kick us off, Mathilde? What have you got for us this week? What's one of the things you want to talk through? Things related to creators for you right
Yeah.
now?
So this is a tool I actually used to dislike a lot because it was like an old family member who invites themselves to your parties without you wanting them here. And I'm talking about Fathom AI, maybe a tool that you're using or that others are using already because it's been around for quite some time now. It's an AI meeting assistant, right? So it automatically joins your meetings and takes notes for you.
Mhm.
You don't have to worry about taking notes, worrying about kind of like taking track of your action items. So and in the way, the reason why I used to dislike it so much is because it would just join your meetings, even if you didn't want it to be there. And then you were like, just, well, I'll try it out. We'll see what happens. And actually, yeah, I've grown to like it for a few reasons. So, like I said, you don't have to worry about taking notes. You, of course, have the transcript of your meetings, but also what I love on Fathom is that you have your key takeaways of the meeting, your action items really nicely laid out. You can share the meeting with your team or with other people who need to watch it. You can clip specific parts. You can actually, during a meeting or an interview, whatever you're doing, you can highlight a specific part to then go back to that part in the transcript. And another thing I really love about it, and it's really helpful for me who tends to speak a lot, is that it helps you be conscious of your talk time. So it will tell you if you're speaking 50% of the time, 70% of the time, if you're going on rants, if you're having a bit of a monologue like me now for minutes. And so you can really just like start to understand, all right, maybe I need to pause a little bit more, maybe I need to ask more questions and that sort of things.
That's really interesting,
Really
actually. That
cool.
I've not seen that before. That whole kind of share of talk, share of airspace. I've
Yeah.
been playing with a few tools like this. Have you tried any of these yet, Jacob, as well?
No, do you know what? I've been trying to find something exactly like Fathom, so I'm really glad you bought this one because I found a few kind of smaller ones that they didn't seem that mature. They had some issues and stuff like that, but they look cool. So I was just kind of waiting to see when they would
Yeah,
mature a
pretty
bit.
good.
But this looks really good. Yeah.
It got very accurate as well. The transcripts are really accurate. The meeting is, I've tried quite a few. I've tried the Zoom AI, also Companion or whatever
Mm,
they call it. That gets things wrong most of the time, the names of things. Or Fathom has got really good at summarizing your meetings and really just extracting the key takeaways, the key action items. And like I
mm,
said, this talk time thing is really helpful, specifically if you're talking to customers, doing user interviews, perhaps customer discovery calls, you want the person in front of you to talk more than you are, right? Than you do. So
totally.
you want to make sure that that's something you pay attention to, and
Yeah.
Fathom makes it really easy for you to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and it's totally unbiased feedback as well. You know, if you've got a colleague in there that might feel a bit weird about telling you, by the way, you spoke way too much in that meeting,
Exactly.
the AI won't care. It'll just tell you. That's cool. Does it give you anything on the fly, like live while you're in the meeting, or is it all kind of after the meeting after it's done?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'm actually not really a power user. Like I said, I've just like it's just been in my meetings. We got it at Circle. I was like, well, whilst it's there, we'll see what happens. So I think you can set it up this way. I'm not entirely sure.
Mm,
Right now, I'm using it really after the fact. So really
yeah.
when the meeting has ended. But I believe the talk time and monologue kind of like features are something that you can also see when you're in the meeting. So something to double check. But
Cool.
I think some of our
Nice.
customer
And so,
success folks at Circle are using that to make
Yeah.
sure you
yeah,
are.
yeah.
I've been playing with Otter on this. Otter
Mhm.
AI, it's another
Yeah.
similar one. I've used Otter for ages for transcriptions. I always found it about the most accurate I could find, certainly for my accent, voice, whatever you want to call it. So it just works really nicely. But they added the AI. And yeah, we have to be more picky somehow, being up north.
My French accent, AI doesn't like my French
Yeah,
accent. I mean, also it's,
totally.
I've heard somewhere, I don't know who said that, but accents are like fonts for speech. And I love that.
That's
I
nice.
love that. Yeah, that's
Some
so
fonts are
true.
more readable than others, but
Yeah, yeah, that's great. But yeah, Otter introduced their AI summarizing and stuff like that recently. The thing I like about it, actually, it's pretty accurate. I do like the tasks it brings out, but the interface actually is really nice too, because it has this three-part interface where you can flick between the transcripts, the summary, and then the action items as well, and you can export it. And Otter seems to make it really nice to repurpose it, actually, like to send it out to your team afterwards, that kind of stuff. So just another one to think about too. But I'm gonna go and check out Fathom too, because I have found Otter is maybe not quite as good as I'd like at making sure it picks out all the actions, all the tasks. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, gonna have a look.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Alrighty, Jacob, what have you got for us?
So this is something I've actually been using a lot the past week or so, but I've used it a lot before. So it's called FigJam. Might have heard of it, but you've definitely probably heard of Miro, right? Miro's like big. I don't know. They sell themselves this kind of big kind of online whiteboard thing. You can drop in templates, you can drop in little elements, and there's timers and all that kind of stuff. And I did use Miro for a while, but I found it just to actually be a bit kind of bloated and a bit too much. So we use Figma at Alitu for, well, kind of at the podcast host as well, for all of our sort of design work. So when we're actually designing the app, when we're designing new parts of the website, that all goes in there. So we already had an account, already kind of used to using Figma. So I thought I'd try it FigJam. And it's just so nice and pleasant and kind of like lightweight. It feels it has a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of little kind of widgets and stuff that you can pull in. But I'm a really, really visual thinker. So at the moment I'm doing some work on some quite high level sort of wispy strategy stuff that is hard to kind of define. And I'm just like, right, I need to bring this to in a way that I can see and understand, and it starts to feel solid, so that I can figure out ways to communicate it. So I'm just pulling in all sorts of screenshots and bits of text and adding sticky notes on top of it, and it's brilliant. It really, really helps me think through some of these ideas and thoughts that are just kind of on paper. But one thing that I realized when I started using it recently, this is something that they've added to it, is you can now generate with AI, obviously, a sort of entire document template. So if you want to bring in, 3 or 4 kind of co-workers, whatever, however many, and you want to run kind of like a group workshop kind of thing, which we've done before. So we've used similar tools for sort of retrospectives after a project where something's gone really right or really wrong, and we want to kind of analyze that and figure out. And we've used similar kind of tools for that. But this was cool. I tried it out, just a few different things, and I just kind of give it a few different scenarios. And one of them was, right, I want to run a retrospective where we bring together engineering, or bring together marketing, bring together content, and I want to extract as much sort of insight from this as possible. I gave it this really short spiel, and it gave me this perfect template out the other end, where really I could actually just share the link to that document, set up a calendar invite, and boom, would have a kind of ready-made workshop. The thing that really surprised me was that it actually came with some instructions built into the template, which is really cool. Now, the templates that they kind of have off the shelf that you can pick for different things, different situations, different workshops, they come with that kind of instruction too. But it really surprised me that actually these kind of custom generated ones, they still come with a bit of guidance. This is how much time you should spend on this, and then you should move on to that and that and that, which is wonderful. If you're not I don't know, like a project manager, a scrum master, we don't have a whole role just for that. So it's great to get that bit of guidance in there. Yeah, really, really cool. Really impressed.
It's funny because I actually found out about FigJam yesterday. I was in a meeting with someone at Circle. And
Really?
and I looked like a mirror board, but I looked much faster. And I was like, what is that? Oh, it's, on top of Figma. And I just made a note to use it this week. So it's super
spooky.
That. I love the AI-driven templates thing. I think because Miro got really good at, they have an amazing template library. And sometimes I feel like I find myself spending more time picking a template and like going down the rabbit hole of like, what do I need? So just being able to write like instructions, like I have this type of meeting, like just help me run that meeting. on FigJam sounds really awesome.
Yeah,
Totally,
that's really
totally.
cool. Do you think this is the
Yeah.
kind of thing that would be really useful to a creator, even just planning out like a season of stuff, or like
100%.
planning out a new YouTube channel or a
Well,
new take or something? Yeah.
it depends on what kind of creator they are, you know. So I think Colin, you're a Notion lover through and through. Anything that you want to do, that, well, you tell me if I'm wrong, but from what I've seen, if you have something you want to get done, you go straight to Notion and you detail it all out. But for me, I skew a little bit more to visual. I like sticky notes, and I like being able to move things around and be like, oh, actually, that probably belongs over there. That kind of stuff,
Yeah.
which probably takes longer, but
I work in
yeah,
Figma. I think that, and to be honest, I've started using Miro in that way. Maybe I'll move to FigJam, but kind of like really visualizing things in different ways with different artifacts. I really find it super helpful to have. I feel like almost like Miro boards and FigJam here can become the new slide decks to some extent. It's like
yeah,
instead of doing a presentation where you limit it in space and what you can share, or even on Notion, you have obviously different blocks that you can use. On a Miro board or here FigJam, it looks like it's the same. You can really just bring different types of content or visuals, have a diagram in one place, and then
totally.
linked to a wireframe to explain one thing that you're working on your roadmap. So I love these different
Definitely.
types of visuals that you can mix and match, and the collaboration aspect, as you mentioned, adding post-it notes. I mean, again, if you're a creator with a small team or even a bigger team, and you want to get some input and feedback on things that you're working on, just having that board open, right, and being
Yeah.
able to, as people are sharing and giving feedback, just adding a post-it note, adding a comment, makes it really
Yeah,
easy to collaborate on projects.
totally.
So,
Yeah. It actually surprised me. I added a table to one that I was working on yesterday, and I expected it to be kind of like clunky and useless. I was like, "Right, I'm gonna have to spin up a Notion doc anyway, even though I want to try and keep this all in one place." But no, it was great. It was fantastic. It did everything that I would have done in Notion. So yeah, I was really pleased.
Yeah.
Thumbs up from me.
I love that idea of the presentation alternative. Like when you want to just present something to the team, like instead of having to spend time playing around, like fitting everything into the slide deck formula, you
Yeah.
can just splash everything onto a page and then just navigate around it as it makes sense. It's so much more dynamic. That's really cool.
and it makes it fun as well. It reminds me of the old days. Remember Prezi? Like
Oh,
it was like
yeah.
years and years ago
Yeah,
where it was super fun. I
that
remember
was
like jumping
so
into
cool.
the It's a little bit like that. It's just like, the old days of Prezi, but kind of new generation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Totally.
great.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember the first
I
time
like
they
that.
came out, they were like seeing the first person do a Prezi was like magic. It's like, what are you doing here? It was amazing.
I'd love to see, as an addition to FigJam, then actually building off what you're saying, using it as an alternative sort of deck. I'd love a button that just says present, and it takes
Yeah.
everything and it just makes this Prezi style kind of like click through to actually present stuff, but you can build it kind of however you want. That'd be
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, because I don't think it
Great
exists in
idea.
Miro in any way. I mean, I remember because I actually did a whole like state of like my team, community, and customer education. I did a whole like multi-board Miro project the other day to replace a presentation. And I remember I spent a lot of
Mm.
time actually just linking different boards and like figuring out how do I make sure that people view the right kind of like board and on the right scale to see the details.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to have some sort of. I'll definitely try FigJam in any case because it sounds great and lightweight, like you
Nice.
said. So
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Cool. Well, that's mine.
All right. Let me jump into one of mine then. Do you have any others, Matilda? How many did you bring? Did you have a couple or just the
I
one?
was going to talk about Miro, to be honest. So we did that already. So.
Oh, really? Oh, funny. Okay. Let me jump into a quick one first then. I've got one. So one thing I've been playing with recently, have either of you guys used TubeBuddy at all?
Mm-mm.
No. It's a tool, a companion to your YouTube website. That's their kind of pitch, is that they help you grow a YouTube website through a whole bunch of different little assistants inside the YouTube interface. So it's a plugin for your browser, plugs into Chrome, and then next time you open up your YouTube channel, it shows all of these little overlays, essentially. So it's one of these plugins that changes the page live. So you're loading up your, whether it's the whole channel, and it puts little stats all over the place, little buttons in different areas. I can talk about a few of them in a sec. Or if you're on a video page, it adds like loads of different elements to the video page as well that you can play with. So it's really cool. And the pitch is, yeah, like I said, around growing your audience and assisting you in workflow as well and getting stuff out there. And there's a few things in there I've been playing with, which I've found really useful over the last couple of weeks. One in particular, I was trying to find a way to do some thumbnail testing, some A/B testing on our thumbnails. So the more I read into the algorithm, the more I play with YouTube, the more I realize how powerful the thumbnails are. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but actually it has a huge effect on the click-through from the search. And therefore, it makes a lot of sense if we can manage to test them as well, do A/B testing, test this versus that, different styles, different approaches. But I've never found a way to do that in an easy way before, other than go in there and manually change it a week later. But then it's a different part in the publishing life cycle, so it's not really comparable, week 2 versus week 1. But with TubeBuddy, it actually has this built in now. So I can upload a couple of different thumbnails. I can set a test period just before I publish the video, and I can say over the first 2 weeks, keep swapping the thumbnails. I think it just does this entirely manually. Like it literally just swaps the thumbnail every hour or half a day or something like that. Yeah, totally. But it does it manually, and you can say, right, do that for the first week, the first 2 weeks. And so I've got that running just now, and it gives you some great stats, actually. So it's just showing up like this thumbnail's better than that thumbnail. I've already got some insights into, it does actually make it more effective generally. I've been trying, for example, to do AI generated ones. So it makes it so much simpler if I don't have to include my face on the thumbnail. And I thought maybe some nice AI images would work nicely, but it's back to what you'd expect. A human face on it actually does have quite a big effect on it. So can't take the shortcut, sadly. But it was really good to actually it was really good to test that. So yeah, it was good to be able to actually put some numbers behind that. And the other thing I'm playing with, there's so much in here. I'll maybe come back to this over the next couple of months as I get deeper into it. But the other one just now is actually, it has some great tools in there for coming up with ideas. So it can analyze your channel, it can look at some competitors, and it can start to bring out, here's some topics that are related to your niche, your sector, that seem to be doing well elsewhere. So it's a bit of competitive analysis, a bit of keyword analysis. Here's some ideas like for your videos this week. And actually, I've just picked up some of them and used them in the last little while. So it's been really good just playing with it, actually. Yeah. So it's been useful.
It's like a whole layer of extra data on top, essentially, that you're not really getting just from default YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, I've got the like the keywords everywhere plugin for Chrome, which is really handy for search. So it sounds like it's kind of like keywords everywhere, but for YouTube.
That's
right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just gives you that extra insight, and you can do it on other people's channels as well. So you can see like what, again, a bit of competitive analysis, like what topics are standout videos on their channel compared to the average, which kind of shows here's something that's really engaging, here's something that's really in demand right now. Yeah. Are you guys doing much with YouTube, Mathilde?
At Circle or myself?
Yeah.
Both?
Or either.
Yeah. I mean, myself, not much. I had a short stint when I was going to Thailand, doing Muay Thai and Thai boxing. I was trying to kind of like share a bit about my journey some years ago, but didn't really pick up. At Circle, we're starting. Yes, we are starting to, because we have a lot of great content talks that we host at our summit. We just had our biggest summit, the Creator Catalyst Summit, for 3 days this week. So we're starting to just really use YouTube as a way to host our sessions after the fact, right? So people can find them. But we're just getting started. So our marketing team is just really thinking about what's next, and how do we use how can we use YouTube as a channel, knowing that we have other channels already. We're starting also our own podcasts. We have a customer community where a lot of content exists. So yeah, that's kind of work in progress. Let's say.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah. It's always a work in progress, isn't it? We all are.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Anyone else got any tools they want to bring in? Anything else for the moment?
I'm all out.
Snow, all good. Was there any different angles? Did you talk about your sort of stuff in the Miro? Sorry, Mathilde. There, I've never used Miro at all. Was there anything you think that suits more than FigJam, for example?
Yeah, no. For me, it was really about just again, I find it interesting how some tools are around for so long, for years, maybe you use them for one use case here and there, and then all of a sudden it takes people around you who start using it more for you to be like, wait a second, like it has evolved a lot. It's just a lot more than it was able to do before. And that's what happened with Miro. There's been a bit of a trend at Circle and internally where some people have just built really cool mural boards, and that makes
Really?
you think, well, like, I want to build a cool mural board too, to just share my strategy for the year, or like
Yeah.
retrospective for teams, stuff like that, collaboration type meetings. I used to use Miro for that for a while, but just this idea of like replacing the presentation, and I find it pretty freeing, and it's very flexible, right? Instead of being there in your Google Slides or in your whatever you're using for slides, just being able to have this blank canvas and being able to use different types of elements to convey your ideas or to collaborate with others when you are presenting. So that's the main point that I wanted to share.
Yeah, perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a really interesting topic actually. I think it relates to some of the world of creating as well. Like when we're creating software like you do with Circle, like we do with Alitu, the the evolution you go through
Mm,
over years and how software can change, not just like a new feature that adds to what you have existing, but even a different angle or taking a different tack or changing audience targeting a little bit, like how you communicate that to people that already have a perception in their head of who you
mm,
are and what you
yeah,
do, like how
yes,
you
yes.
can change
Yeah.
that. I think that's really tricky actually. Is that something you've wrestled with at all? Yeah, with Circle.
Oh yeah, I mean, Circle is changing so rapidly, and of course, we started as a community platform for
Yeah.
creators. Now you can bring your discussions, your content, start memberships like all in one place. But now we're so much more than that. You can host entire summits and live events on Circle. You can use those events as a way to attract members or to turn subscribers or followers into members. And so we're in the midst of it. Actually, I think we are doing a lot of great work to communicate, to obviously make sure that people know the things that Circle are enable to tell the stories of our creators, just like you guys, right? Of
Yeah.
what the really amazing things they do with Circle and with their businesses and their audiences and communities. But I think it's going to take a while for us to see the benefits, the fruits of that. And I think there's always, this push and pull kind of thing where you doing as much as you can, you communicating, you having your product announcement, your customer education and all of that. But then there's probably a different timeline that people are on where
Yeah.
they're discovering the tool, where they are using it for different use cases. And we're always also discovering new use cases from our customers and our customer
Yeah.
community. And so it's always this push and pull of like, this is the message that we want to share. This is the way our tool has evolved. But it's also, how do we pay attention to what people are doing with it, and how that also
Yeah.
informs how we
Yeah.
evolve and what we build.
Yeah. It's
Bit of a
interesting.
rambly answer, but yeah, we're in
Yeah,
the
no,
midst
yeah,
of
Yeah.
this.
absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, just trying to communicate as much as you can, isn't it? Yeah. Well, that's maybe a good little segue into our questions for you, Mathilde. Jacob,
Yeah.
you've got a whole bunch of stuff you want to chat through here. Do you want to jump in?
yeah, cool. So obviously you're at Circle just now, which is really cool. We'll get on to Circle, but actually I wanted to know a little bit more about what you were doing before Circle. You started something called Making Jam, is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in a previous chapter of my life, I was a product manager based in London, working for different early stage startups. And in my first year on the job, I had a lot of, imposter syndrome, wondering like, am I doing the right thing? How do other people build product out there? And so I created a conference called Jam, Making Jam. This conference was all about sharing kind of the stories behind great products, and then it kind of evolved into becoming my main thing, my main business, because every year it grew up until the point where it became a community. We had different events, one in Barcelona,
That's
one in
really
London. We had a retreat for CPOs, and then that became a community for product people that I was able to run remotely for many years, and focus on that full time after being a product manager for a few years in London. So
That's really,
yeah.
really cool. Okay. Well, one really silly question first. Did anyone ever make you some jam and bring it along to the meetups?
That's a good question. We were serving jam. We were like one of our main differentiators in the world of conferences at the time, 2014, 2015, was that we wanted amazing food at our events. So we had,
Yeah.
great coffee, great jam, great croissant, and
Nice.
being French, it was very important for me. My
Very
co-founder was
important.
Belgian, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. Cool. So like how did you start off working on Making Jam thinking it would become this kind of big thing with, multiple conferences and retreats? Like how did that snowball? What was the plan when you started out?
Great question. The plan was just to create an event to to kind of like solve my own challenges or to meet others who were facing similar challenges as a product person, a new team lead. So no, I had no idea this would become a business, a conference series that I would be able to live off of it and travel the world doing it. Yeah, in the early days, it was just a side project. It was just something that I just wanted to do because it was also fun. It was, I wanted to meet other people, yeah, doing the same role and building products in London, and not knowing that it would become this international like community for product people. Um,
Yeah.
it's funny how when you start something, you never know, you never have a full plan, right? It's just like you want to maybe scratch an itch or do something for yourself a little bit, specifically if it's a side project. And I find it beautiful how, you know, uh, sometimes things can evolve into businesses or projects that you had no idea that you didn't really expect, right?
Yeah,
So that's what
definitely.
happened.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's a great example of people doing something that they enjoy and they love. And then if that can be turned into something you can monetize, I mean, amazing, and then suddenly you're doing something that you love doing every day. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's really
After a
cool.
few years of doing the conference again as a side project, so it was just like maybe I should do this full time. Like this is kind of now worthwhile doing this full time. At the time it was matching
Yeah.
my full time like salary as a PM, and I was like, maybe I should stop here
Hmm.
and focus on that, and I'll have to look
Yeah,
in office
yeah,
every day. And.
yeah. Was that scary making that decision, even though you were making similar amount of money?
Yes and no. I think, yeah. I mean, at first I was pretty. It was a bit of like a transition that was a little bit like smooth. So then I did a bit of freelance work as well. So not so scary, but I have to say, after the first year of doing this full time, I did wonder, like, was that the right decision? Like, am I shooting myself in
Mm,
the foot with my product management career? Like, I had this bit of a identity crisis of like who I am now. Am I just a founder? Am I a founder of a conference series? Am I a creator? So I had a bit of
mm,
yeah, of a moment where I was just like, but you can always go back, right? Like with what you've learned.
yeah,
If I wanted to become a PM again, I could do that. Now I work in community, and we can maybe talk a bit about that, how making Jam kind of in a way led me to my job at Circle right now. But I did have a moment that maybe like 6 months of self-doubt and asking myself,
yeah,
did I just turn away from a career and product that could have been
yeah,
really successful and meaningful and all of that. So
yeah.
um
Well, I'm willing to bet that
working way
that
back.
probably helped a lot in getting your job at Circle, right? That experience of having ran this big organization, well, not big organization, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
reasonably big organization with all these people in that industry. How did that lead on to that next role?
Yeah, so actually I used to be a Circle customer because when COVID happened, right? Like a business, an event business like making Jam wasn't able to, we had to pivot, right? And so we pivoted to, we could no longer run in-person events. So we pivoted to gathering our members, our attendees online with a membership
Mm,
model. And so at the time there was this little tool that was in beta called Circle that was out there that I had used in other contexts. And I was like, let me just try it out. And I just fell in love with the product. So I was just like, wow, this is everything I need to build, to transition to like a membership model. Um, yeah, and then it was just it was a bit of the end of a chapter for me with Jam and like all those years running the community, the conferences, and so then kind of being able to join an early stage company, working on really cool products, but also kind of like working on helping people who are creators, community builders, oftentimes solo community builders, helping them solve some of the challenges that I had building that community led business,
yeah,
making Jam was really really exciting to me. So
yeah.
was that your question? Your question
Well,
was like, how did I? Yeah. So I was a customer and joined the Circle team full time as one of the earlier
yeah,
employees. We were just 10 people at the time. It was different. Now we're about 200.
really.
So the
Wow.
company has
That's
changed
such
a lot.
a
Yeah.
that's a wonderful way to start a new job though, already as a kind of advocate, having been a customer. That's yeah,
Yeah.
must be
100%.
valuable for Circle.
Yeah, and after me, there were many people that we hired on the design, engineering side, marketing even, who actually were either customers, had their own communities already, or were members of other communities, like course communities, membership communities, and so it does really help to know what it takes to build, like to gather people authentically online, to deliver value online, um,
Mhm.
to use like a product in a way that is going to really help people like achieve something together in a world where there's also like Zoom fatigue and people are tired of just being, behind a screen all day. So how do you just help build community in a very authentic way? And I think it helps to be part of a
Mm.
community or having built your own community to then, be on the other side
For
and work
sure.
for a platform for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's a huge shift at the moment, I think, towards more kind of community-based communication and learning, and where maybe once before what was definitely like the accepted most effective way for someone to start a creative business was more or less start a blog, start an email list,
Hmm.
and then sell one-off kind of courses and all that kind of stuff. Well, what's your take on where we're kind of heading? Like, I wonder whether the blog and the email list of last
Mm.
decade is maybe going to become, or maybe not become, maybe live side by side with communities and podcasts that are much more sort of, I don't know, kind of human and personal and all that kind of stuff. What's your take on where we're going?
I think it will definitely live side by side. I think
Yeah,
we're entering a world where it's going to be easier and easier to start either of those things: a podcast, a newsletter, a community. And I think that's really like the vision, or like the maybe the principle that we really believe at Circle, that is like just start somewhere, like, and we want to help you throughout your journey, like whether you're just starting as a creator and you want to, you know you write, maybe you're writing, you have a and you want to start a newsletter, because we don't have yet a newsletter feature. Maybe I shouldn't talk about that too much, but see you in 6 months.
oh, does that mean it's coming?
I
You heard
haven't
it
been
here
briefed,
first.
but
Secret reveal.
it's just that, starting a you should be able to start wherever you want. And some people now are starting communities from scratch. And I think it's super exciting to see maybe like founders or people who have traditional business who want to start a community as a side project, or people who have an audience already, but they're like, something is missing here. Like, I feel like I want to be able to connect with my followers in a more authentic way. I want them to connect with each other, deliver value to each
Yeah,
other. And so I think there's, this kind of like multifaceted kind of like multi like plural way of building as a creator that tools like Circle really make possible. Obviously, it's just a tool, and you have to do the work. Um, but yeah, in terms of like the newsletter, the podcast, I think it's just a matter of like, what are you good at? Like, what do you have the time for? Because not everybody wants to build or run a community. Like, not everybody wants to be
true.
hosting gatherings, rituals. Um, some people like to write. Some people like to host, and interview others. And I think that should still be obviously something that you should be able to do with a tool like Circle or other tools. And then, if suddenly your podcast, your newsletter grows, and you see an opportunity to build a community or membership on top of that, or to maybe kind of like expand your product line with something like a membership community or a course, then you should be able to kind of like grow to do that with those tools. So I think we're
Yeah,
going
for
more
sure.
towards more flexibility, and I don't think communities or community businesses, or course communities, will ever replace like those
Yeah,
great more content led businesses that exist.
yeah.
I think there's something really interesting, that crossover though, isn't there, around I feel like in the olden days, part of the reason that blogs did quite well, only part, obviously, but there's the community aspect that you got around a blog and the comments. Like, blog
Mm,
comments were huge when I started blogging. You used to get people writing in all the time,
Mhm.
and we had to stop it because something that worked well, it just got taken over by spam, and it was really hard to combat that and all that. But in the early days, it was your audience talking to each other, and you would jump in every now and again. But really, it's an audience managed community, and the YouTube is similar. It's why YouTube gets so more kind of community engagement really than podcasting, because it has one place to go and write the comments, and you can interact with other people in the community too. So there's definitely something around being able to run a community like in Circle or elsewhere, whereby you're not even managing it. Like you said that, Matilda, it depends on your aptitude towards running events and being involved as much yourself, but offering up that place where at least your audience can talk to each other somehow, where
Yeah.
all you do is post the content. You post
mhm.
videos, podcast episodes, and somehow that becomes the central space for the conversation as opposed to these channel based conversations. I'm not sure how that would work longer term, but
Mm,
it'd be lovely to have something like that that ties them all together.
together,
Yeah.
yeah. We do see communities that have this idea of, you have location based spaces. So you're a creator, you have an audience, you start a community on Circle. You might be hosting specific like exclusive content types in there, but it's also this idea of like it's the place where you go if you want to meet others who are part of this community, and you can just find each other and self-organize depending on where you base, organize your own meetups, like again you're doing on Circle, but then you meet in real life. And I think that's just a really interesting way to bridge the gap between kind of the online world, the in-person world, and without you, the creator, having to be involved in doing all the work. I guess it's just like you're facilitating connections between people in your audience based on location, based on interests, based on
Yeah.
however you decide to set this up. I think it's we do see a lot of that in some of the communities that again are led by creators and that have this model of gathering people outside of like social
Yeah. I noticed, I was reading your community benchmark report from Circle,
Mm.
the 2024 one, and I was going through all the platinum communities, and looking into some of like basically, how they're running their business, essentially, just out of interest. And there was one that I came across in particular, and a few outside of the report. But the one in the report, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention the name. It's in the report. It's public. It's called
Sure.
Airwiggles. We can edit
The,
it
the report,
out.
we can totally mention it. What's
Yeah,
the name of the community? Sorry.
totally. Airwiggles.
Airwiggles. Okay, I'm actually not familiar with.
Airwiggles. Yeah. So the really interesting thing that I found about this community is that it was I typed in airwiggles.com and it took me straight to their community. So they're fully community first. And I've
Mhm.
started to see that in a few more places.
Mm.
And I found that really, really interesting because actually an entire sort of content brand theoretically could run out of a platform that is engagement first, right? So, Colin, you're talking about how big kind of comments and stuff used to be, but that all that was when Blogger was big.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, where you
Yeah.
had one login where you could go onto multiple websites and you could leave comments on them. And I guess Medium, in a way, has started kind of filling that gap a little bit, but it's still not, you don't own really your stuff, if you're putting it out onto these different platforms. But there's something interesting to me that I keep thinking about recently about content businesses that are just community first. Theoretically, the content that you're creating to put on a blog, could that actually go into a community as a long form post? Could the videos go into the community? You can cross post them on YouTube, and you can cross post a lot of this content in different places. But I just wondered if that was a trend that you had noticed at all, of people coming kind of new into the content world that are basically trying to create something with their passion or their skill, but are actually starting with community first and then building out from there.
Oh yeah, a lot. It's happening a lot, specifically in the past couple of years, 3 years. As we see more and more examples of creators who have built successful community businesses. Um, it is funny, right? Because it's definitely becoming, as you see tools like Circle that help you like host all types of content, like you said, you can have your videos, you can have your courses, your discussions. That makes you think, why not just starting there instead of having 5 different tools and 5 different activities? I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna use one to host all the different types of contents, to experiments. To one example that comes to mind is this membership community called 10x Designers. Um,
Okay.
that is so the founder actually had a bit of an audience on Twitter already, but instead of going out there and starting a YouTube channel or just putting content out there, he just channeled everything through his community. So he's doing like regular events with design experts. You have a design critique kind of ritual in the community where you can post a piece of work and get feedback from the community and himself every single week. There is, challenges that you can participate in to kind of like sharpen your design skills, learn new tools. And that's really a good example of, like just starting with community, starting with this idea of like, you're going to like have a bigger transformation as a designer if you're learning from others, experts and peers in this place that is your home, versus doing it on YouTube from me, the creator. That's going to be very valuable, but very time consuming for me to have to create all the content, edit it. I mean, I've never done this, but I have friends who do, and who do that for full time, and it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And also the monetization aspect is really important. In the community, in a membership community or course community, I mean, you set the price and you have recurring revenue in a way that a platform like YouTube doesn't really let you. Again, very different business model, right? So yeah, it's a really big opportunity, and we do see a lot of creators starting with community first, like an engagement kind of first.
Yeah. Cool.
I feel like
yeah.
that whole area is changing quite fast, isn't it? Like I'm an old man of blogging these days. Like you mentioned Blogger there, Jacob, and it was always WordPress. It's always where I think first. And you're always telling me to use Webflow and stuff. I know it's brilliant, but it's not the same as it was in my day. But I've been looking recently in the last few weeks about where to start a new little content project. And actually, it almost makes the most sense. And it seems like most people are thinking this way, to start either with community first, like you're talking about, or even with growth first and communication first. So like Beehive, for example. Beehive seems to be the new hotness in terms of publishing in this way. And actually it's ostensibly, theoretically, email first, as in it's an email platform really, but many people are just creating their blog there now instead. So some of the emails might be non-public and go just to the either paid subscribers or subscribed subscribers, if that makes sense. But then actually other posts are just published on your Beehive website, and that becomes your blog. And it's like so much simpler, so much easier to do. But really it's thinking distribution first, as opposed to our old view 10 years ago of publish it and people will come. Because even more and more in an AI world these days, like that's less and less reliable. So I don't know, it does seem like that's a whole shift. Two different ways you can do it now, community or distribution first. But yeah, it's very different.
Arguably interchangeable though. Same kind of result, Yeah.
And they can all work together. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you build the content first and the community next, or like vice versa? And there's definitely the two models that coexist, I would say. With one model that's more. But like you said, like even in the earlier days of blogging, like the big draw was the comment section and this idea of like connecting with others, seeing what others are thinking. And so I think we're going back to that.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Jacob,
I mean, that's
I was going to say any final things to. Yeah.
Aye.
What were we going to say, Jacob?
It was sorry. I was just to touch on AI and community. This is just a personal feeling, but I actually think that the combination of sort of community, maybe actually smaller audiences, but more of them, kind of in these communities, more kind of, I don't know, personal, more human, more real kind of content like podcasting together. I think that might actually be the antidote to the inevitable future that we're going to have, that is kind of completely overwhelmed with generated content, not really knowing who to trust and what to trust. It's going to be a real problem, but I think that actually this shift towards more community-based kind of smaller communities online, not just big kind of social media platforms with black box algorithms and stuff. I think it's really necessary, and I think it's really important, because otherwise people aren't going to have places that they can gather. We're going to lose what made the internet special, which was people being able to kind of get together and talk about interesting things and share ideas and learn from each other.
Right. Finding your niche, your people, and being able to trust, like, okay, those are real people I'm talking to, and those are like their That's an interesting take. I think that's, so we talked about the creators obviously, but for the member, like as a member of multiple communities, I feel that, and I think a lot of people are feeling that as well, like being able to being in those oftentimes private environments that are, just for people like you, or people who are not like you, that you want to learn from, that you're going to be able to trust. And I think being part of multiple like smaller communities is going to be one of the ways that we maintain a sense of belonging online that perhaps we'll see lose a little bit through AI
We'll
being
never
more.
know until we get there.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it feels
I
good to
agree.
be part of multiple like smaller communities. Like I'm part of, a course community for people running online events on Circle. I'm part of a community for people who are into neuroscience and like mental health, and it's just
Yeah.
nice to be able to also pick like depending on the day or the week. Like here's like, oh, I have half an hour. I'm going to spend time in there, see what's new, or there's a digest happening, being delivered to your inbox every Thursday. Just being able to catch up with different communities based on your different plural interests that you have. I think it's
Yeah.
just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's
Definitely,
almost
I
like getting
agree,
references
100%.
for the content, isn't it? Like going to the community to find the content that's actually trustworthy and good quality instead of searching more openly.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay. Thanks for that,
There you go.
Jacob. Thanks, Matilde. I have one. We normally don't do a creator of the week because you're a creator of the week, Matilde. But actually, there was one thing just caught my eye. I wanted to bring up just to see if you had any thoughts on it, both of you. Is I know that you follow The Rest is Politics, Jacob, don't you?
Fanatically.
Fanatically. Matilde, do you listen at all? Do you know the show The Rest is Politics?
I don't know it. Sorry.
It's
I'm gonna
quite
have to
UK centric. It's two ex politicians essentially, or close enough, from the UK who run a politics show in the UK. And as a complete political ignoramus that I am, Jacob less so, but it's a great primer for me because they break stuff down, they make it really simple, and it lets me keep up to date a wee bit on that kind of world in a less boring way than reading the paper or whatever. So the show's gone absolutely nuts. It's really popular here in the UK. I think it's quite popular abroad as well. Actually, people keeping up with what's going on here.
They've started a US side of it as well.
Is that really? Was that
Anthony
right?
Scaramucci.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, so it's a great show. They do it very well. They're great presenters, and they keep, one of the things I love about it, they keep things very short as well. They're very good at keeping things concise and explaining. But point is, the thing I noticed recently is that the UK elections are coming up in July, I believe, only a few weeks away now. And it turns out that the biggest kind of media coverage of it, pretty much, or something that's been pushed very heavily, is now the two presenters of The Rest is Politics are going to be basically the kind of prime. Is it the BBC? I can't even think which channel it is, but this has been promoted as one of the biggest coverage of the whole election. They're going to be live on TV, Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell covering the election, along with Emily Maitlis, who's another podcaster as well. So basically, the two biggest political podcasts in the UK are taking over mainstream media to cover the election, which I think is just nuts.
So cool. Yeah, really, really cool. But it is, and it's not, I don't even think it has, well, it'd be untrue to say it has nothing to do with the medium, but it is the best content.
Yeah.
Like center ground, level headed, and it's really interesting because obviously Rory's a Tory and Alistair's Labour. So like it's, the disagreeing agreeably thing is really interesting, but I don't think they could achieve that if it were something else. I think it's they get the listenership they get because people can listen to it on the way to work, like they would listen to the radio. They can sit down and watch the video if they want to. But it's really, really cool. It's really cool to see. Much deserved. They've done amazing work on it for years now.
Yeah. I feel like this is going to be, I mean, it's already a bit of a trend, obviously, but I feel like this is going to be more and more like mainstream media is just going to be sort of populated by people who have already proven their audience through things like this. And obviously, Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell were pretty famous before they got the podcast up and running. But even more so, I think we'll just be getting presenters that, they come through our normal creator world, and suddenly that's taking over TV, it's taking over all of that. Yeah, just great to see.
Like crash course in UK politics, so I'll give it a listen.
No, please don't. It's not worth watching. Only out of morbid fascination, maybe.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you. Sorry, go on.
I do have a creator of the week. If we have
the time. No, absolutely. Yes. Do you know what? Yes, that is exactly the next thing we should do. I almost forgotten. Yeah, go for it. Who's your creator of the week?
It's this American creator called Damon Dominique. So I've been following him for years. He he started actually on YouTube. He's a travel. It would be a bit reductive to say travel vlogger, but he just talks about his life as an American in Paris. He speaks fluent French. He's a polyglot. Um, like his content is very authentic and genuine. It's really about, day in the life in Paris, but also when he travels, like what it's like to live in different countries, to speak different languages, to struggle sometimes to make yourself understood, to date like in different countries and different cultures, like the kind of like cultural differences in dating and all of that. And what I love most is his story as well. He used to have a co-founder. He used to have a different channel, kind of like a travel channel called Shut Up and Go, and that was years ago. He then had a bit of a fallout with a big fallout, I guess, with his co-founder, and for a while he kind of went a bit silent, and he actually just launched a new channel and really was able to reinvent himself, to like start over, to find
Mm.
his own voice, like to build like a personal brand around his life, his interests, his all the languages that he speaks and his learning. And I found that super inspiring, just to be able to like just start over. Like you had an audience of, I don't know, a million subscribers or so, and suddenly you're gonna start from zero and build everything. Maybe not from scratch, because you have all your learnings, all your experiences. He's also like the author of a book called Your Global Citizen, talking about travel and cultural differences. And he recently launched a couple of language courses and a travel course. So again, going back to this idea of like, you have an audience, but you can also, build different products on top of that. He's running a community on Circle around his language courses to really help his students kind of like learn from each other as well as from him. So a really cool guy. I've been following him for years. Just very funny channel, great authentic content. But I really just love this idea of reinventing yourself as a creator. And if something doesn't work out, like a business,
Yeah.
a partnership, you can always reinvent yourself and launch something new. And now his business is really successful, and he has his YouTube channel, but also the courses and the community as well.
That's
That's really
really, really
cool.
cool.
Yeah, the content looks
Yeah.
really highly produced as well. I'm sure it's not all like this, but this looks like a
He
pilot.
actually, he's a solo creator. Like he has some help from a videographer, but he was in discussion with Netflix at some point. Things fell through. So he's really authentic about this. He talks about like, trying to host a Netflix show, things falling through. Um but yeah, he's really, really talented. He does an
Yeah.
incredible job. So most of his videos are kind of like more like day in the life, like you see here. But he also did a few more like longer form documentaries with a friend of his who's a videographer, and he's a one man show. It's incredible
Yeah.
what he
Yeah.
does as one person. And he talks about tools a lot as well on his channel. So like he's a big fan of Notion as well. He talks about how he organizes his whole life and business on Notion. So
Oh, yeah.
something
There
you
it's
can
popped up
yeah,
just
there we
as you
go.
said.
I'm sure we talk about Notion at times and on the show.
Yeah, excellent. That's great. I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of non-talked about secret actually for YouTube. I'm kind of seeing more and more these days is that mix of quite low, easy lift stuff, low production, easy lift stuff like this. So he's just him on screen. He's just doing a little screen share, but he's obviously got a nice tool to include him in a little circle in the bottom, so it looks decent, but it's pretty low lift in terms of production. But also mixing that in with an occasional really high production thing just to really
Yeah.
impress people and really show. I feel like that's what I'm trying to do at the moment with our YouTube channel. Is mostly it's going to be this kind of low lift stuff, but at least every couple of months do something that's a bit more impressive, a bit more high production, and mix that together
Mm.
just to make it more sustainable, really, more than anything else.
Mhm. Yeah, and you can watch this like movie or documentary when you are, part of the audience, and it feels great. But also having this connection with him more regularly through the lower kind of production
Yeah,
content, that's still very valuable, and the content is great. So
that's it.
yeah.
That's it. Great. Okay, great example of somebody
I'm gonna have to
monetizing really
check that.
nicely as well. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Matilda. It's been great to catch up, get some of your tips, and hear a lot more about what you've been working on in the past and are in Circle just now as well. So thanks for your
Thank
time.
you guys. It was super fun.
Been
Thanks
great.
for inviting me.
Indeed.
Thank you so much. We're gonna have to get you back though, because I didn't even get a chance to ask you about nomading or Muay Thai. So
Oh,
there's
nice.
gonna be a part
Well,
two.
I will happily come back and talk about all of that.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome.
Supplements, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you out there for listening as well. If you're enjoying the Creator Toolbox, do hit subscribe. Make sure you're following along and follow us at thepodcasthost.com as well if you're looking to start a podcast and make it a success. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you next time.